I'm going to tell you a bedtime story, and it's another one about the tortoise. Today we're going to read about why the hippopotamus lives in the water. In this story, Ijapa goes to another feast. You'll find out that the hippopotamus lives in water because of something that Ijapa did. In the animal kingdom, a long time ago, everyone respected Hippopotamus because of his large size. He had 7 wives who were as large as he was. He also had many children who would grow up to be even larger than their parents. Every year, Hippopotamus held a feast for all the animals. It was a grand occasion. Once, just before all the guests sat down to eat, Hippopotamus called for their attention. He stood with his 7 very large wives beside him, and he bellowed, "Does anyone know my name?" The animals looked up puzzled and surprised. For ages, everyone had tried to guess what Hippopotamus was called, but nobody knew. Hippopotamus looked upset, but secretly he was pleased. He said, "If you do not know my name, you can no longer eat at my table. Perhaps you will have found out my name by the time we all meet again next year." Okay, here's a few pictures for you to look at. You can see Hippopotamus there and all the animals as they came to the feast. The animals looked at Hippopotamus in shocked silence. Many had travelled a long way, including Ijapa, the tortoise, who was not at all happy. Ijapa was not very big, but he loved his food. He had been looking forward to a really good time at the feast. Ijapa was angry that Hippopotamus was turning everyone away. He plucked up his courage and asked Hippopotamus, "What will you do if someone does find out your name?" Ijapa was already thinking of a plan. Hippopotamus said, "I will be so ashamed that my family and I will be forced to leave the land and go and live in the water forever." Hippopotamus did not think that anyone would ever find out his name. Ijapa was known for his quick and cunning ways of thinking. He knew that Hippopotamus and his family often went to bathe in the river. A few days after the feast that never was, Ijapa waited by the path until the ground shook and a billow of red dust filled the air. These were signs that Hippopotamus, his 7 very large wives, and all his very large children were coming. Quickly, Ijapa curled up inside his shell by the side of the path. He looked like a stone. There you are, can you see? Can you tell which one is Ijapa and which ones are the stones? As Hippopotamus, his 7 very large wives, and all his very large children passed by, Ijapa rolled into the path. He placed himself so that one of the wives stubbed her toe against his hard shell. She cried out in pain to her husband, "Oh, Isantim, I've hurt my foot. Please, can we rest for a while?" Ijapa had heard what he wanted to hear. Isantim went to look after his injured wife, and Ijapa made his way home, excited and singing happily as soon as no one could hear him. Ijapa was very pleased, but he would have to wait until Hippopotamus's next feast before he could do anything more. The next year, just before Hippopotamus's great feast, news had spread to all the animals that Ijapa knew Hippopotamus's name. Ijapa did not tell anyone what he'd found out because he was waiting for his big moment. The day of the feast arrived. As usual, it was a very grand occasion, but this time there was more excitement in the air. Everyone was wondering whether Ijapa really had found out Hippopotamus's name, and if so, whether Hippopotamus would keep to his promise. Hippopotamus arrived with his 7 very large wives and all his very large children. He stood in front of the animals and said there would be no food for any of them unless someone could tell him his name. There was a big hush. Ijapa stood up and reminded Hippopotamus, "You said that if anyone found out your name, you and your family would leave the land and live in the water forever." "That's quite right," bellowed Hippopotamus confidently. He was sure that nobody could have found out his name, so he nearly choked with surprise when Ijapa shouted triumphantly, "Your name is Isantin!" Look at Hippopotamus. Not very happy, is he? All the animals cheered when Hippopotamus agreed that Ijapa had found out his name. Hippopotamus said sorrowfully, "Let us eat and drink together for the last time. As promised, from this day, my family and I will leave the land and live in the river." You see Hippo there. This is why, ever since then, hippopotamuses live mainly in rivers. The only land they come onto is the riverbanks, where they often bask in the sun or come to feed. There's a moral to this story. Do you know what it is? In case you don't, the moral of the story is, it's not always wise to be overconfident. Think carefully before you make a promise. Right. I hope you enjoyed that story. Sleep tight and come back and visit us another time for another story about what Ijapa the tortoise is up to. Good night.